The Florida Gators have officially now fired Billy Napier as their head coach after 3.5 seasons of mediocre football.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. As always, I am Brandon Olsen. Find all of my written work about the Florida Gators with swampsignal.substack.com, where we will be talking about this plenty. But Billy Napier has officially been fired as the head coach at the University of Florida. This was something that was a long time coming, right? Everybody knew that it was going to happen. A bunch of people tried jumping the gun on when it was going to happen, but the Pete Thamel tweet just officially went out. But this felt like something that needed to happen, right? 22 and 23 in his career at Florida. 5 and 17 against the top 25, 12 and 16 against the SEC in that time. It's over for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators, and it's felt like it was over for a long time, right? The fan base can rejoice. Everybody can be happy. The Florida Gators not only won a football game yesterday, but also moved on from Billy Napier today. And this is a fantastic thing for the Florida Gators program, right? I know that there's a ton of people who are like you wanted them to succeed, but it just wasn't happening. It's fine. This is something that should have happened last year. I would like to revisit something while we've got people pouring into the live chat, which thank you, by the way, like, subscribe, comment, review, do whatever it is you want to do. But I would like to revisit something for all the people last year that after Florida lost to Texas A&M, and I said, hey, it's time to fire him. A bunch of people after Florida ended the year hot went, are you going to apologize? And I said, no, because if he gets fired in 2025, all that means is that I was right and Scott Strickland was wrong. That's what that means. So this is something that should have happened over a year ago at this point. This is something that was a long time coming for Florida Gators fans. We've been waiting on this one for a while now. Phone's blowing up a little bit because it's a good time. I'll tell you what. I have not publicly spoken about a coaching list or coaching candidates. I have not publicly done that. I've been saying that I'm waiting for Billy Napier to get fired officially before I say anything about that. We'll talk about that in the second part of this live show, because we do get to celebrate and we do get to be happy, and we do get to honestly just be happy that this is good for the program. Again, I've been very open about this. I know that Billy has not worked out. I know that Billy is not a good coach. I get that. I know he's not a Florida quality coach. I don't do the ill will, bash him, call him an idiot, call him anything like that. I don't do that. That's not my game. I'm here to talk about football, give my opinion, love the Florida Gators, and give my opinion about those Florida Gators. I am very happy for the Florida Gators program that this happened. The Florida Gators are a team where you can win a national championship. They've proven that multiple times. They have not been able to do that or even come close to doing that under Billy Napier. They expanded the playoff to 12 teams, and Florida didn't even sniff it last year. Florida deserves better. And I do think that part of this goes to Billy Napier's done a fantastic job building this program, building this roster, maybe not building the program, building this roster up with DJ Lagway and the blue chip players throughout. Yes, Willie Peterson, it is really true. Billy Napier's done a great job of that. He simply isn't a good enough football coach. He's going to be owed a buyout of $21-ish million. He's going to get, I think it's half of that within 30 days. And the other half is broken up into equal payments over the next 4 years, if I'm not mistaken there. But the Florida Gators program got better today. Make no mistake of that. The Florida Gators program got better with Billy Napier's firing. This team deserved more. I mean, we saw countless games. I can't remember the last time I've seen a coach lose as many football games as Billy Napier has lost as the head coach of the Florida Gators. And like, we've seen losses, but how many times have you looked at a loss and gone, oh, that's heavily on the coaching staff? I can't remember a single coach in my lifetime that I've seen as many games where I go, hey, yeah, that wasn't entirely on him. I can't remember a single time that's happened. Nope. I watch Florida football under Billy Napier and I go, yeah, that's coaching there. That coaching costs you so many games. Coaching costs you so many opportunities. And really, you should have lost yesterday to Mississippi State if they didn't make a bonehead decision at head coach and at quarterback throwing the pick to Mekhi Boyroe. You should have lost that game. Inexcusable efforts we've seen far too often. And I wrote about this on Friday for Swamp Signal, which the link's in the description below. But I wrote about this on Friday for, I called it a pre-mortem. You know, you post-mortem after someone dies, something dies. We got a pre-mortem here where it's before it really happened. We're going to look into it. And a lot of it came down to just self-inflicted things. That's really what happened. Was a lot of it was self-inflicted wounds and miscues by this Florida Gators staff or just Billy Napier himself. I think that the assistants, a lot of the assistant hirings were not up to snuff to actually be competitive at the University of Florida and in the SEC. And I was very vocal about this for a long time, that I was saying, hey, you know, Florida, you need to upgrade at certain positions. You needed to upgrade at wide receiver coach, at the edge coach. You needed to get rid of Rob Sale and move on from that disaster that was on the offensive line. Because that was always a point too, where we talked about, you know, Billy Napier not working for whatever reason. And a lot of it was self-inflicted. That's why I want to feel bad for him, just in the sense of like, he seems like a nice guy, but at the same time, he's also just not a good enough football coach. Simple as that. He's simply not good enough. His ego got in the way time and time again. And I wrote about this on Friday, where whenever Billy Napier had been pressed about why he was still the offensive play caller for the Florida Gators, he would go back to analytics and he would bring up the analytics of the EPA per play and all that stuff. And then you look at the analytics and you look at the EPA per play and you look at all those things. They got worse basically every year. 2022, 49th EPA per play, 86th success rate nationally. 2023, that improved to 33rd EPA per play, 39th success rate nationally. 2024, EPA per play was worse than 2022. Success rate was worse than 2023. And then this year, currently, they were awful. They were 107th nationally in EPA per play through the 6 games before Mississippi State, and they were 85th nationally in success rate. The thing that really ended Billy Napier's time as the head coach at the University of Florida was Billy Napier. A lot of these issues were self-inflicted wounds. A lot of these mistakes and miscues were self-inflicted. They could have been avoided by hiring an offensive coordinator. They could have been avoided by taking a different approach to some of your assistant coaches. That didn't happen. Okay? I can feel bad for Billy the person, but as far as Billy the coach, he deserved to be fired last year. I said it after the Texas A&M game last year. I do not take it lightly to call for someone's job. That's not the intent that I want to have move. That's not the intention I want to move with or do anything like that. But it's what was justified. The goal at the University of Florida should be and should always be to win national championships, or at the very least, compete for them. At the very least. Florida never even came close under Billy Napier. The measure of whether or not a coach should be fired at the University of Florida should be, can you win a national championship here? And if the answer is no, get him out. The answer was no after week 3 for me last year. The Texas A&M loss at home where Marcel Reed got his first start and beat the crap out of you there. That should have been the first, nope, he's not the guy, call it there. That was why I called for him to be fired after that game. After the Miami game in week 1 last year, I said, hey, if they're going to look like this, then it's going to be over quickly. This is on Billy. Simple as that. Billy was not a good enough head coach at the University of Florida, and because of that, Billy got the boot. We got Locked On Vandy, Corey Burton saying, can't have Clark Lee, Glenn Schumann. I'll tell you this. We'll talk about my coaching list in a minute. We will. We'll get to my coaching list in a minute. If you got names you want to throw in there, we'll talk about those. Glenn Schumann, Georgia defensive coordinator, is not on my list. And he will not be on my list at all. I'm good on that. I'm really good on Glenn Schumann. I'm all right there. So I will say that if you have a suggestion or a coach you want to talk about, I'd love to hear your list, see your lists. I think a lot of us are going to agree at whose 2 names should be at the top. Whose 2 names should be at the top. We will talk about that list when we get back with Locked On Gators. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win with FanDuel, who has just insane offers all the time. Right? You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So what are you waiting for? Florida, screw it. Florida money line against Georgia. You win the game with an interim. That's always how things go. Right? Right? We'll see. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And also, one of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table, potentially part of that $21 million buyout that the Florida Gators just gave Billy Napier, thank goodness. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer support communications. It works right through an app on your phone or on your computer, so no more carrying 2 phones like your Kevin Gates or relying on a landline. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls and no missed customers. And let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, right? And that can mean leaving money on the table. Again, $21 million buyout. We need all the money we can get. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. And we got Corey Burton in here from Locked On Vandy, and he's first off, he's throwing a few shots or throwing a few names out there, a few shouts, we'll say. And yeah, I gotta say, I don't want Glenn Schumann. He's not on my list. I have a list that I broke into tiers. Okay, I want to make this clear. I broke this into tiers. It's not rankings. It's not first and second. It's tier 1. That's who's in that tier. I'm good with either of those. Tier 2, that's how it goes. So tier 1 for me, really easy. I will say this. Initially, there were 3 coaches in here. Curt Cignetti was one of those coaches. He signed an extension with Indiana. I view him as not happening, so I'm not worried about that. I know Dan Lanning is in here for a lot of people. I don't think he's leaving Oregon. I don't think that buyout is something that he's going to move off of. So nope, going to say no to that one. My first tier, for Florida Gators candidate, which again, I've not put out publicly at all, other than the insider program got it once Billy got fired, which the link's in the description below if you want to join that. It's Lane Kiffin and it's Marcus Freeman. That's it. That should be your top two. Even if you wanted to say, hey, Dan Lanning, Kurt Signet, like Lane Kiffin and Marcus Freeman should be your top two, right? Lane is offensive-minded, Spurrier light, seriously outperforming expectations at Ole Miss. I think that he needs the resources to build a roster with depth. I think that's a huge part at Ole Miss. Is like he's so reliant on the portal. Yeah, he's so reliant on the portal. He brings guys in and wins 10 games every year at Ole Miss. That stuff ain't happening everywhere. He's the top of the list, or he's at the top of the list with Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is more of a risky name that, and I will also say this because I forgot to say it, tier 1 for me is immediate college football playoff expectations and guys that I think would keep the roster intact. So it's Lane Kiffin and Marcus Freeman there. I don't care if you say Marcus Freeman is not an option. That's not true. I'll tell you that much. It's not true that he's not an option. A likely one? Sure, I'll give you that. But not an option? Not so fast. I'll say that. With Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, defensive minded, but the thing is with and also, by the way, has made a college football playoff. The thing with Marcus Freeman and a lot of defensive-minded head coaches, if you don't get that offensive coordinator hire right, you're done. Okay? You're done. Noah Conley, I will tell you this factually, you are wrong. I will tell you factually, you are wrong in saying that they aren't options or anything like that. No. So that's tier 1. Okay? Is Lane Kiffin, Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman, very dependent on who his OC is going to be. Lane Kiffin, I'm good if he brings Pete Golding. I really am. I know people see the 43 points to Georgia, and they see like these moments where for some reason they go, oh, that's a bad DC. You're wrong, first off. Just factually, you're wrong. Pete Golding, good DC, is part of the Ron Roberts tree, so the roster is already built to operate in that way. Okay? There's that. Then we got tier 2. Or I have tier 2 broken up into 2 separate tiers. I value them the same. It's just 2 separate tiers. Okay? That's it. Like that. I just tiered them into tier 2. I put tier 2W, which is winners, short-term or long-term. And I put tier 2A, which is just aggressive, high upside. Could flame out, but is going to be there. Logan Sewell said, why the obsession with Lane Kiffin? He's never made the playoffs, just lost to Georgia, and barely beat Washington State by 3 points when they were favored by over 30. I understand the Lane Kiffin doubt. I really do. I get it. I believe that there are certain programs that when they have certain identities, they are most feared. And with Florida, it's that you need an arrogant, brash coach. I think that's been pretty clear. I think that Lane Kiffin, one of the best offensive minds in football. I think what Lane Kiffin has done at Ole Miss, like people are putting these, he's never made the college football playoff at Ole Miss. Yeah, you know who else never made the college football playoff at Ole Miss? Literally anybody. It is so difficult to get talent to Oxford. Lane Kiffin might not work. Sure. Here's the thing. There are risks with every single candidate. There is no candidate that is a sure thing. Every single coaching candidate has risk. What you're trying to do is get the coach that gives you the highest risk or the highest opportunity to success with succeeding with the lowest risk. That's Lane Kiffin, and I believe it's Marcus Freeman. I don't know why anybody's saying, hey, Marcus Freeman's garbage. Why would you even consider? Did they lose to Northern Illinois last year? They did. They did lose to Northern Illinois last year. You know what else they did? Made the national championship game. You know what Florida hasn't done in almost 20 years at this point? Made the national championship game. I don't give a damn about that they lost to Northern Illinois. Because you know what they did? They came back and they won it, or they won enough to make it back to the national championship. I don't care that you lose to Northern Illinois if you go back and make it that far. I really don't. I don't. I think that when you look at Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame, you're looking at a great football coach. You really are. Brilliant defensive mind, young, up and coming. And I think that when you give him the resources, I mean, locational resources, being in the state of Florida is a huge advantage. Like we talk about that with Lane Kiffin. People go, oh, recruiting. First off, Ole Miss recruiting is better than it's been in a long time with Lane Kiffin. So there's that. And also, like, you're going to have different resources at the University of Florida that you don't have anywhere else. Like you're going to have different resources at the University of Florida than you had at, Ole Miss. It's different here. It really is. And I think that by discounting either lane because he hasn't made the college football playoff at Ole Miss and discounting Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman because he lost Northern Illinois and then made the national championship, I don't know what level of perfection you're looking for, but prime Steve Spurrier, prime Urban Meyer, prime Nick Saban are not walking through that door for any coach, any job. What you're doing is you're finding the best candidates possible. That's Lane Kiffin and it's Marcus Freeman. And that's not up for debate. It really isn't. It's really not. Marcus Freeman, yeah, we've never seen him do it in a conference. We've never seen him do it in the SEC. We've never seen him do it long term. Valid complaints, valid concerns. Lane Kiffin's been in the SEC at one of these schools with some of the worst resources around, and he's consistently won. He's got 10 win seasons 3 times. He's gonna have a 4th one. That's it. Tier 2 W is tier 2 winners, whether that's short term or long term. And this is in alphabetical order. It's not an order of guys that I necessarily am pounding the table for. And also, this is a longer list than I think most places. I'm going to, Daryl James, how about you shut your mouth? Daryl James also, by the way, likes to come in and complain about schemes thing when he has no idea what he's talking about. But you got Jeff Brom is in there. And again, also some of this is not guys that I necessarily want, but guys I'd be fine with if they went after. Jeff Brom, long-term Power 4 winner, 8+ wins from 2021 every year on. Louisville alma mater, don't think it's happening. Kenny Dillingham, dude wins. Arizona State's his alma mater. We'll see if he leaves. Big 12 championship Big 12 championship winner, made the college football playoff last year. Jed Fish is a name that's going to come up all the time. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of Jed Fish. I don't think that we've ever seen him stay in a place long term. That's it. For anybody saying that, like Gorilla Toe said, Freeman hasn't played anyone hard. One, that's not true. They made the national championship last year. They had to get through the college football playoff to do that. So to say they didn't do it and they can't do it is crazy. Daryl, literally nothing, less than nothing, if that's possible. James Franklin, no buyout. Could offer him less than $8 million and let Penn State make up the difference, reinvest that in staff and NIL. Although Florida State fires Mike Norvell, I find him as a more likely candidate for that school. Brent Key is going to be up there. He's going to be in a lot of lists. Georgia Tech, he's 21-12 in his career at Georgia Tech. Offensive line guy that doesn't get out physicaled. Georgia Tech's his alma mater. Good coaching hires or good candidate hires so far throughout his career. Needs to finish strong. This is shaping up to be his best year. And Georgia Tech could be a college football playoff team this year. Rhett Lashley at SMU made the college football playoff last year, 16-5 since joining the ACC, 34-14 at SMU overall when they were in the G5. He made that transition from Group of 5 to Power 4. He's got them playing damn good ball. We got Clark Lee on the list here for Locked On Vandy. I didn't put Kyle Whittingham on the list because I don't think this is a job he's going to take. I don't. I think he's way more likely to retire than to up and move and relocate. So I don't think that's going to happen. So that's why he's off the list there. Clark Lee built Vanderbilt back up. tough, physical SOB. He's winning at Vanderbilt. He's getting them ranked. He's getting them going up. I'm not sure where Clark Lee would be without Diego Pavia, right? Here's the thing, because I only say that because I've seen people say it's Pavia magic that has them winning. Here's the thing. You might be right. But who got Diego Pavia there? Like, who got the guy that's going to go out there and win football games with him? Right? Yeah, it's the head coach. John Summerall is the lone, because this is all Power 4, by the way. John Summerall is the lone exception for the Power 4 winners in this Tier 2. Okay? He's the exception to it. He's a winner at Troy. He's a winner at Tulane. I mean, his defensive schemes are incredible. His OC hire would be very important to find out his success. And so I do think that John Summerall is the lone guy there. Tier 2A is the Tier 2 aggressive, flame out, potential more high risk, more high reward than anything. I forgot who put Alex Golesh before. It might have been you, Corey, from Locked On Vandy. Alex Golesh is on this list here. Unproven coach, hasn't been a coach for a long time. Absolute psycho that is 6-1 right now. High octane offense. 2 top 25 wins this year, including one at the Swamp. Never stood a chance in his one loss this year. Never stood a chance versus Miami's physicality with his roster. However, I will say he got USF to invest more in football than they really ever have before. And I think that's a big testament to how you can get in a room with him and how he can convince people. Give him more money. I think that's huge. Brian Hartline is on this list, Ohio State offensive coordinator. I'm very skeptical of Brian Hartline. I'll be honest. I think that he would be fantastic at getting in a room with just about anybody in the state of Florida. I think that he could get a ton of receivers available, get a ton of quarterbacks in, because like when you can get those receivers, you can then say, hey, all right, the quarterback's going to come with us, and you get the QB, and then everything else can kind of fill in. So I will say, what's up, Harrison Sanchez is here. He got the good news. Brian Hartline, he's not going to be a play calling head coach. No one should be a play calling head coach. Yeah, Blind Squirrel Sports. He's on. I don't know if you were here for the part where he was on the list that I mentioned. Brian Hartline, I think he would need to be a CEO type, would be very dependent on his coordinators, which is why I view him as a very high risk candidate. And he would probably be my lowest ranked of this group. Will Stein, Oregon offensive coordinator, is the third and final name of this Tier 2. High octane, efficient offense, no head coach experience, has ties to Texas, so could get him in there. My concern with Will Stein, it's a concern with Alex Golesh as well, would be what their coordinator and assistant resources look like. What do you think their coordinator and assistant pool looks like? And how much of that is going to be maybe Florida saying, hey, we want to get this guy, we want to bring in this coordinator, this position coach, whatever that may be. And how much is going to be having someone that's going to come in and want to coach under that coach and see how that goes. Because like we talk about with Billy, when Billy Napier got hired, we spoke about, hey, he was on staff at Alabama at this point. He's got these candidates. He's got these assistants. He was on staff with this guy when that guy was an analyst. Now that guy's an offensive line coach. We want to talk about him as a coordinator and talking all about that stuff. You don't get that with guys like Alex Golesh, really. You don't get that too much with Will Stein. It's tough. And so I don't think you get that, but I do think that if you're going to swing on a coordinator, it needs to be an OC. I don't think you swing on a DC. I think the DCs are generally low hires or low ceiling hires. They're too dependent on an offensive coordinator. So I think there's that. Tawan, what's up, buddy? Said, yeah, Billy Gonzalez has been named the interim. I don't think we said that at the start of the show, but Billy Gonzalez has been named the interim. And I have a tier 3 that I didn't even send to the subtext group because it's my group of I hope we don't get here, but it's names that people spoke about. GJ Kinney from Texas State, Lance Leipold from Kansas, Ryan Silverfield from Memphis, Eric Morris from North Texas, Rick Ron from Old Dominion, Joe Klanderman is the Kansas State DC, Pete Kwiatkowski is the Texas DC, and Ben Arbuckle is the Oklahoma OC. I hope we don't get to that area. I don't want to be in that area. That is not a fun area to be in. I'm hoping it doesn't happen. Here's the thing, because I know that there's going to be people talking about, and also if you weren't here for it before, tier 1, Lane Kiffin and Marcus Freeman. Those are the two. When we talk about, I see Tatus is saying, who do you think is going to take the job? I really don't know. I really don't know who's going to take the job. I think this is still very early in the process. I know that there have been back channel conversations with coaches that may be interested and what those may look like, what that may look like. But yeah, I don't know who's really going to take it because so many factors go into it that we're not going to know. What I will say is that Lane Kiffin and Marcus Freeman are at the top of this list. I feel pretty comfortable saying that they're at the top of Florida's list as well. And they should be, right? Like this should be swinging. Eli Drink in tier 2. I had Eli on the list, but I don't think it's happening. And so that's why I didn't include him in my list, because I don't think it's happening. I've said this. I don't like Eli Drinkwitz. I've met him. He's a D-bag from the time that I met him. But he's a damn good football coach. And if you're going to win games, I'm fine with it. Like, I don't think that he's going to come here. I don't think he's going to be a realistic candidate at this point based off some of the stuff that I've heard. I would take him. Even though I don't like him, I would take him. He'd win games here. I think that would be very clear. So no Eli Drinkwitz for me there. But for Florida, I think that you start with Lane Kiffin, you start with Marcus Freeman. And I also tried to look at this as who they might actually take a swing at and who they might actually look at and talk to. And that's why I had, the P4 winners, the the group of 5 aggressive ones, which I think that Florida will look at group of 5. Shondell Park said, what about Lincoln Riley? Lincoln Riley is going to be brought up a lot. He's got an insanely high buyout, and he's wildly overrated as a coach. Okay. And I'll say this because I know there's a lot of people that still dislike Lane Kiffin there. Or a lot of people that still dislike Lane Kiffin. I like Lane. I used to not like Lane. I've been very, very public about that. That I used to strongly dislike Lane Kiffin as a candidate at the University of Florida. My opinion of Lane changed when he hired Pete Golding. Simple as I am a very big fan of Pete Golding. And so for me, when Lane Kiffin hired him at Ole Miss, I was like, okay, that's Lane being serious about coaching again. Okay. Rob G, Kurt does not have a $90 million buyout. Kurt Signetti has a $93 million buyout if he is fired. If another school wants to poach him, it's $15 million. Very important. But Lane Kiffin took football serious when he hired Pete Golding for me. I'd be more than fine with Pete Golding coming in as DC if Lane Kiffin were the hire at the University of Florida. I think that I think Pete Golding's a hell of a DC. I mean, I've said this. I said this earlier in the show. I just don't think that they've got the resources to build the roster they need to be competitive at Ole Miss. And so, they can't even take the top. They can't keep the top kids in the state of Mississippi at Ole Miss. That's it. Yeah, like Pius said, he's matured. He's gotten better. He's gotten more serious. I think you're talking about Lane Kiffin. I think a lot of people talk about Lane Kiffin as like the Lane Kiffin of old. We're talking about a Lane Kiffin now that he's going to do the get your popcorn ready, spot the ball. He's going to do all that stuff. He's going to be fun. But he's also going to win football games. And people could bring up what he's done career against top 25 and all that. I get it. Like, there are concerns with every coach. There are risks with every coach. Said this earlier in the show, and we've nearly doubled in viewership of this live since then. But there are risks with every single coach. Okay? You look for the coach with national championship upside and risks that you think you can manage and mitigate. Lane Kiffin, he'll have better resources at Florida. He will. He'll have better resources. He is, again, I know that people want to go, oh, he hasn't made the college football playoff yet. I don't care. No coach has had this long a stretch of success at Ole Miss. They don't do it. Like, you're setting expectations as if he's at Alabama or as if he's at Florida. And you go, okay, well, it's time to make the playoff. He's at Ole Miss. I'm not even giving him like the moral victory of going, oh, well, he came close. I'm saying that for you to go, he's never made the college football playoff. When he's the head coach at Ole Miss. And to think that that's a reasonable expectation is crazy. It's insane. Marcus Freeman is the other coach in Tier 1 for me. I've said this before, and again, we've gotten a lot more listeners since then. Marcus Freeman is up there for me. He's the defensive-minded guy. His OC hire would probably make or break him. If Mike Denbrock came over, I wouldn't be ecstatic. I wouldn't hate it. I think Mike Denbrock's a good OC. I thought he was a good OC the first time he was at Notre Dame. And I thought he was a good OC when he went over to LSU and we saw him with more athletes. I think that athletes on the offense would make that team a lot more explosive. Marcus Freeman does have college football playoff experience. Marcus Freeman did make the national championship game. That's that. Like Marcus Freeman, hell of a coach. Still very young. Going to be interesting. More freedom at Florida, probably. Going to be interesting there. And I'm not going through the whole list again. I've already gone through the list before. I know Brandon doesn't agree with BG. I don't know what the BG is that you're talking about, Juan. Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about when you said BG there. That also, like for drunk Vigo going, you're delusional. Here's the thing. I'm not in I'm not in the hiring process here. I'm saying who I would go after and who I think are reasonable for them to go after. And so if you have an issue with that, your mother. Simple as that. Tier 2 winners, like I mentioned, because we've seen some names get brought up in here. Clark Lee, program builder there. Billy Gonzalez. I think he's a fine interim. I just don't want him to be my wide receiver coach. That's it. I think Billy Gonzalez is a fine interim. I do not want him as my wide receiver coach. That's it. But Clark Lee is a head coach candidate. He's built Vanderbilt up. He's got them competitive. He's got them playing good football. He's brought in, damn good talent considering Vanderbilt. He's gotten them to invest more in football than they've ever invested in. This is the University of Florida getting more serious. Clark Lee would be, I think my thing with Clark Lee is that I don't know if he has a national championship ceiling. That's where I'm at. I don't know if he's a national championship ceiling. That's my issue. Shall we say that? And that's I think a lot of the P4 winners outside of Kenny Dillingham probably is I don't know if they've got a national championship ceiling. I'll need to see it. Kerwin Bell, as a head coach, I'm good on. Thanks. But I think that you can look at a lot of coaches and say they've won, and they might not do it in pretty ways always, but I think that for Florida Gators fans, myself included, a lot of us need to say, well, just get someone that wins football games. Like, I'm ready to win football games. I don't care if you get someone that does it in a style that isn't my style. I don't care if you get someone that does it in a way that isn't exactly like sexy out there. Just win football games. That's all I'm caring about right now. That's it. Get someone that will say, hey, we are the University of Florida. If you are an in-state kid and you want to come be great, do that here. And we will be great. Like, I want a coach that just does that. Yes, Billy Gonzalez is the interim. I do not want him to be a holdover. There are a few guys I'd be happy with as holdovers. Honestly, on offense, maybe Jabbar Jalouk, but outside of that, like Jonathan Coster, I like what I've seen from him throughout his career, but and what I've heard from talking about people or talking to people about him, but I don't know what that's going to look like. I would prefer the Rob Sale went out with Billy now. And we got to see just Jonathan DeCoster at the offensive line and see if there's something there. Defensively, I mean, position, I don't think Ron Roberts is going to stay. So I'll say that. For the people that want him, sure, hell of a coach, right? At least there's that on field. Gerald Chapman should stay. He's a hell of a defensive line coach. Outside of that, I'm pretty good. Really, like there's a lot of positions that I'm not tied to, or a lot of coaches that I'm not really tied to. I think that the Florida Gators can be great. I know I see people talking about Brian Hartline. He was in the tier 2A aggressive, high upside guy that could flame out though. Who's going to be y'all's intern? It is Billy Gonzalez, wide receiver coach. Brian Hartline, very, very risky hire. We've never seen him lead a program. We have no idea what he's really going to look like as a head coach, right? Whenever he does get that opportunity, which I think a lot of people think. Might be a less expensive head coach, but here's the thing. I don't think that you could pay your coordinators more than your head coach and make that be fine. Like, I don't think everybody's going to be cool with that. And you'd have to pay your coordinators a lot of money to get them to come and coach under Brian Hartline. Joe Brady can go to any other school he wants. I don't care about Joe Brady. I don't know why everyone's so intent that he's going to be a tremendous head coach. No idea why. We have no proof of that. He's known for the 2019 LSU team where he was not the offensive coordinator. He was the passing game coordinator that was not calling plays with one of the most talented rosters we've ever seen in college football. A ton of first-round picks, just high-octane guys. I don't know. Joe Brady doesn't move me. I feel like if he was as good as people think he is, he would have been a head coach by now, but he's not. And there's probably a good reason for that. I also don't know if he really cares about coming to college. Like Juan Solo just said, Joe Brady doesn't even like college. Yeah, I also don't know if he really cares about it. If you're in the NFL, I don't see many reasons why you would say, hey, I want to go to the college ranks unless it was your alma mater. Outside of that, I really just don't get it. This is going to be a crazy time. There's going to be 1,000 lists. Most of them are going to have a lot of repeat names on them. Like most lists you look at are going to be, Antonio, Notre Dame beat Indiana, Georgia, and Penn State. But don't worry, Marcus Freeman's never won a big game. Never. But I think with Lane and Marcus Freeman, they're tier 1, immediate college football playoff expectations, and they keep your roster intact. I think there are some guys in tier 2 that are like tier 2W that are P4 winners that you could say, hey, we probably expect national or college football playoff expectations right away, but I don't know what the roster would look like. Like, who's on this list that we mentioned? Like James Franklin is someone that I've seen mentioned. I don't know how much he'd keep the roster intact. I really don't. I don't know what he would do coordinator wise. I don't remember the last time seeing a coach get fired, go to a new spot and bring his coordinators with him. So I don't think it would be Jim Knowles, who I don't see leaving the area anyway. I don't think it would be Andy Kotelnicki, who honestly might go back to Kansas. Maybe. I don't know what's going to happen with Andy Kotelnicki. You don't know that, Brandon. You don't know what Joe Brady's capable of. And I was speaking as an OC. I don't care about who's going to be the OC until we have a head coach. Also, Joe Brady, yeah, again, like I have no idea if he's going to be good. I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I'm saying we have no evidence that says he's going to be good. So there. I think there's a lot of coaches that are going to be thrown about. The lists that you look at with Lane Kiffin, Marcus Freeman, Dan Lanning's going to be on a lot. Kurt Cignetti's going to be on a lot. James Franklin's going to be on them. Jed Fish is going to be on them. Kenny Dillingham, Brent Key, like a lot of these, Rhett Lashley, a lot of these guys are going to be on every list, right? This is a long process. That's going to take a while. It's going to take longer than the last head coaching hire. It is. It's going to take longer than the last head coaching hire. But the Florida Gators made a move that puts them in the right direction today. Firing Billy Napier was a good move for the Florida Gators. It was a smart move for the Florida Gators, and it makes them a better program with higher upside, better chance of winning. Before we go, I will say this. Buster Faulkner would be an excellent OC candidate for UF's new coach. I agree. I love Buster Faulkner. MJ said, what are we thinking about John Gruden? I don't know how to say this strongly enough. Unequivocally, no. He's a piece of garbage that should not be leading a program at all. Okay? He has no right to lead a program. He lost that right with the reason that he got fired at the Raiders, should not be leading a program. And also, most importantly, outside of 1 year where he won a Super Bowl with a roster he did not contribute to building, he's a career 500 coach. I'm good on that. I'd rather not. That kind of person should not be leading a program. Simple as that. So no, not going to say that. Brandon Fire said Cliff Kingsbury have a chance. No, I want good football coaches. Cliff Kingsbury failed miserably as a head coach. I have no intention or no expectation to believe that he would be good here. I'm good. Thanks. Like I want good football coaches here. Not John Gruden. No. Not Cliff Kingsbury. No, I want good football coaches that are going to win football games for the University of Florida and get the University of Florida back where they belong. Okay? John Gruden is not only not qualified for this, he doesn't deserve it. And it would be insane to think that you could take a guy who failed in the NFL and is going to come and recruit these college kids who have no idea who he is. He won a Super Bowl before any of these recruits were born. They don't give a damn about John Gruden. They know John Gruden as the Raiders coach that got fired for being a clown and the barstool guy. Hell no. Unequivocally, hell no. My goodness. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow talking more about the Florida Gators firing Billy Napier, about what could be happening now, what's next for this team. We'll be back with all of that tomorrow. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen. Like, subscribe, comment, review, do whatever it is that you got to do. It's greatly appreciated. Don't forget to check the link in the description below. I am Brandon Olsen. Find all my written work with swampsignal.substack.com, and I'll see you all next time.